Hey everybody, this is Travis and Brandi with POPEventCompany, and we are doing another episode of Pop Debates. Today we are going to talk about the subject of bringing children to a wedding, yes or no. So we get asked this question a lot. We deal with this quite often on the planning side of our business. And there are certainly some good reasons to be for or against this subject depending on the age of the child, the type of event that you're having as far as how much alcohol is going to be involved. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and I am going to be, which side am I on today?
You're anti-child.
I'm anti-child. And Brandi, the nurturing mother of the group,
the children.
she loves all the children. So we're going to debate this subject today and give you a few points either way to help you make a decision about your wedding. Chugging beers and using curse words. So let's start with the ceremony.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I feel like there's so many parts to a ceremony that people want to include children in, whether it's a niece and nephew that are flower girls or ring bearers. Like that's a way to include the children that you love in your life.
Sure, that's true. There are also plenty of examples out there where there's been complete chaos caused by having a child involved in the ceremony. Those are some of the potential pitfalls of having a child involved. And no matter how smoothly it goes during rehearsal night, when the pressure's on, you have to think about what is that child's tendency and how much of the attention does he or she want on them. So I think that's an important thing to consider before you make that decision.
I think a lot of the problems are usually caused by children who are tired or hungry. And so having snacks for them, making sure they're well rested is going to probably nip that stuff in the bud. So next, let's talk about the reception.
Yes, reception.
Right? So I think having activities for the kids to keep them busy is a great way to not only show that you're going a step further and want to include the children, it also just keeps them busy so you can have a little more fun. So having a designated kids area is always a great way to include children, and it makes them look forward to coming to your wedding too. They don't feel like they're just going to be bored watching a bunch of old people dance.
Yeah. Okay, so the designated kids area, let's talk about what that might look like. So you're probably going to have a kids table with kid chairs that will cost a little bit extra. Those tables typically to rent are a little bit more, the chairs are a little bit more. You're gonna have to make sure that there are plenty of crafts and things for them to do, and you have to consider all ages that are gonna be here, you know, from 3 to 8, 9, 10 or whatever. And then, you know, the cost of whatever entertainment you're providing them. So there is going to be a little bit of cost involved in that, but the other scenario is the parent that, and this is where you have to know your friends and your guests' tendencies very well, but you might have the parent that decides that they want to go chug a bunch of Miller Lights while their kid is at the kids' table occupied and not keeping an eye on them, and you know, maybe little Timmy wants to go try the cake before it's time to eat the cake. So you have to consider that too, is all that entertainment that you're spending all that extra money on, is it really going to be effective, and are people going to see that as an opportunity to maybe not pay as much attention to their kid as they should?
I would say to offset costs, here's one thing to consider too. You know, a children's meal is typically less expensive than an adult meal. So if you've included them in your guest count, right? So say your guest count's 100 people, but 20 of them are children, it's going to be cheaper for the kids. So while you may spend more money, if you do a dedicated child's area, you're definitely going to not spend as much on your food because chicken tenders don't cost the same as filet.
You know, I'm not a catering expert. I'm not as we would call it, certified catering technician. But to me, if I'm a caterer catering a wedding for 200 people, and I have to make 7 of these other meals, to me, that's more costly. It's more time consuming. So that would be a good question to ask your caterer. Say you have a big family and there are a lot of kids and you really want everybody to feel welcome and invited, but you're gonna have to have a lot of kids' meals because, you know, little Timmy isn't a pescatarian, so he doesn't want fresh trout. So you're gonna have to make him macaroni and cheese and chicken nuggies and things of that nature. So is the caterer gonna charge a little bit more for that just because it's a little bit more labor intensive or time consuming to make that switch? So that's a question to ask the caterer. And maybe
or you can ask the certified planning technician. It is not more expensive. It is less expensive.
Caterers, you're missing out on that extra income. I think, it's my opinion.
Like like a trouble percentage or something. No. So I think, you know, to your point of it could cost more. In essence, it probably will cost less. Now, where it could scale, just to be devil's advocate, is the seat, right? So if you don't have a dedicated kids area and you have a certain amount of people that your venue can house, so you have to account for a seat for those children. They're not always going to sit on mom and dad's lap. So, you know, you're going to give up potentially another invitation to someone else for someone's child.
That's a good point. I mean, if you're limited on venue space, you found your dream venue, but you've got 250 people that you want to invite, including, you know, kids that may be invited to the wedding, or you know, but they can only hold 175 or 150. You have to make a decision whether, I hate to say it this way, but, you know, do you want someone's 3-year-old instead of maybe one of your cousins or friends from school or whatever? So that is a good point. That's one area where you just have to make a decision whether you're willing to sacrifice that spot.
I'll concede to that. I think that's a great point. And I think from a compromise standpoint, that's where you kind of do have to sit down and really look at it and say, you know, again, with my numbers, who do I want to be there? Now, I will say, one of the and again, devil's advocate, one of the reasons I would probably say a good conversation to have about kids would also be if you were doing a destination wedding, right? So how many people are going to pack their kids up, their 2- and 3-year-olds, and fly to Jamaica?
Nobody, if they're smart.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, again, immediate family, probably yes, right? But how do you as a couple say, I want your kid, but I don't want yours? Like that becomes
I got a scenario for you we haven't talked about. Very important scenario.
Okay.
What about, say you love your little 4-year-old cousin or your niece or nephew or whatever. Let's say it's your cousin, but you don't necessarily like their dad because drunk Uncle Frank is going to drink too much Miller Lite at the wedding. Can you invite the child and not the parent?
Hey, that's a whole nother topic. How do you uninvite the parent?
Well, I'm just saying, maybe, you know.
Not you.
Maybe the child is very sweet and enjoyable, but the company of the parent, not so much. Can you send a car service to pick up the child for the wedding and have them back by midnight, or how does that work?
Why, are they going to turn into a pumpkin?
We deal with some interesting family dynamics, as I'm sure you all can imagine. So this scenario, although it sounds kind of silly, isn't entirely out of the realm of possibility. So anyway, something to think about.
You know, I think ultimately when you're navigating a wedding, you have to decide what is most valuable and what's most important to you. Is it the family unit? Do you sacrifice some relationships to ensure that all of your family members are actually accounted for on your wedding day? While it can escalate costs, what it can provide you are amazing memories. You know, I'll go back to earlier when you were talking about having meltdowns. Yes, I've seen meltdowns at ceremonies from children, but I've also seen some really amazing moments at ceremonies with kids. So whether they do something sweet like kiss the bride or go up and hold her hand, or like I've seen children run to their fathers whenever they're the best man. And those are moments that you'll never get back. So having those memories and those moments and those images are exactly what a wedding's about.
That's a good point. I think also, you brought up the point of relationships and who is going to be upset by this. Unfortunately, we do deal with that, and people that are having a hard time deciding how many people to invite and who gets an invitation and who doesn't, and the dynamics and who's going to be upset. It's not easy, and we do these debates because there are good points to be made on both sides, not necessarily reflective of our actual opinion, because we've seen it both ways. But our children would certainly be invited to our wedding if we did it again, at least one of them. But it's tough. It's very difficult, and those sweet moments are really, really nice. They really are. Just make a business decision without emotion about it, so that you are realistic with yourself about that child or that person's behavior, to make sure that they're a good fit for your ceremony. If you question whether they're going to be able to walk down the aisle and put the flowers where they're supposed to be, or deliver the ring without chasing a duck, if you have questions about that, don't do it. If there's any question in your mind, trust your instinct.
And I will say that from a relationship standpoint, I see a lot of couples that kind of wrestle with that, right? So they want to invite maybe college friends or something who have 2 or 3 small infant children, that kind of thing, and they wrestle with the cost. So the couple themselves will, the guests will be like, gosh, it's going to be awfully expensive for us to pack our family up and,
that's a great point.
And come from Seattle to the Tri-Cities to a wedding. So sometimes it's almost forgiving to them to be able to say, no kids, or children under a certain age. Like, you can actually put certain caveats. If you're going to invite those people, just understand that you're inviting them because you want to spend time with them. So again, I'll go back to, there are amazing licensed and insured babysitting services in our area. So if you have a venue that maybe is not the most child friendly, if you're riverside or lakeside, or you worry about those things, just be precautionary in that. But I think there's a way to balance that and have kids at a wedding without having all the pressure of it. So keep them busy, keep them happy, and keep them safe.
Yeah, and it's kind of a tips and tricks, maybe, but you mentioned something about, the cost and expense of somebody if they're flying into town and then bringing their children. There are ways, if you're trying to satisfy family members and, if you're trying to satisfy family members and invite people that may be on the bubble, but you don't want to create any rifts within your family or friends group, if they're the only ones that have kids, for example, and you're not really sure whether you want them to come, but you have to invite them, making a no kids policy could be one way of getting them to not come to the wedding. So there's a little bit of psychology involved in it too.
Is that what you call it?
She likes my point. Anyway,
I concede to
that. We've gone as deep into the waters of children at a wedding as I think we can go. The right and wrong answer lies within you and what you want, and your guests and their kids better than anyone, hopefully. And so make the decision that's right for you. These are just a few things to consider when you're making that decision, so that you can make sure your wedding goes as smoothly as possible.
That's right. I have
I win.
no comebacks.
I win.
I don't think you win.
I think I won.
It's not really a winning situation.
I was certainly funnier than you.
Are you saying that we should have a wedding and not invite children?
I mean, not if she's going to eat the ring.
Do you have a topic you want us to debate? Maybe you liked what you saw. If you do, like, comment, subscribe below. We'd love to hear back from you.
And also pick a winner.